Hello there. I've been reading a bit of Ross Rosenberg on this spring afternoon about narcissists, different types of narcissist. One type was productive narcissist, which is a more benign type. Sometimes people think Donald Trump is a productive narcissist rather than a malignant one. And various other people in positions of influence where they actually do have a lot of talent, perhaps, and they really want to make a difference. They're just they are a bit grandiose about how far they think they can go, but they get closer to it. There are people who are a bit more malignant, and I come to somebody for my sins, perhaps as a result of my own productive narcissism. I'd like to air this. Maybe the FBI will notice what I'm saying, I don't know. Somebody they've dealt with in the past is this author, who has written this book and another one and a couple of DVDs, such as Employment in Asperger's, and how he supposedly had difficulties finding employment, and Nick Dubin, his name is Nick Dubin, and why I think his father is probably a malignant narcissist and or sex criminal, and he might be as well, or probably is, but he wasn't charged with it. He was charged possession of child pornography in 2010, but he didn't have to have a sentence. He said in one of his books, The Autism Spectrum and the Law, Spectrum of Sexuality and the Law, which is also co-written by Tony Attwood. You might argue this is quite narcissistically written in parts. I mean, is he having a joke? The complete guide to Asperger syndrome? Does anyone know the complete guide to anything like that? Are you being ironic, or are you just following a marketing principle? I don't know. For some reason, I would want to distance myself from somebody like Nick, I think, if I was him. Maybe he's a little grandiose about himself, or his own abilities, or very naive. Which one is it? As I was saying, there are certain things, this may have to have a bit of a caution rating to it, that didn't quite add up. There's very few videos by Nick Dubin now. There used to be more. Somebody did one where they've supposedly got the things listed that were on the FBI reports, which it may be freedom of information in America, where they're allowed to have that, and it said something like some of them the children in the pictures were involved in sexual activity. He says at one point in this book they're not, and he also talks about being very naive because of the Asperger syndrome condition. It was something to do with he wanted to regain a sense of being a child again, and that's to do with autism, not perversion. But who would make sense of that? This is a person who goes around colleges, universities in America, or had previously up to that point. So he's a very successful man, helped probably by his manager father. There's somebody who runs another website called, I can't remember his name, but it's called the Autism Gadfly, where he thinks that rather than accept autism, we should find a cure for it, which is another twist. But I think it was him or somebody else said they don't even think this guy has autism. High functioning autism, HFA or Asperger's, none of those, not necessarily. And then it's a cover perhaps for being a sex criminal. That you consider some of the things he's done, like teaching or coaching of sports, tennis, where only he got a hard time. Well, there's a video there where some of the people, I know people can be charming and two-faced, but there's a video there where everybody at the tennis club is nice as pie. They seem nice, sensitive, thoughtful people. I know people can be fake, but who's truly the victim? Or some of the things he said sound like, that does sound a lot like autism, like having to be told something several times to do something a certain way and not learning from your mistakes and things like that. Having these sensory sensitivities, they're all valid symptoms if they're real. And on the video to do with employment, he talks about how you should have something you're interested in, find something you're interested in and then do that. Well, the only thing he does, you know, all this stuff about jazz, but he doesn't work in an area of jazz. Music, he works in an area of psychology. So he's telling everybody about his condition, but he is supposedly very naive about his condition. It's very contradictory. Also the sort of person who writes, during his speech, my friend went on to say that many of us become reliant on pornography as an alternative way of engaging in romantic relationships. While it may serve as an outlet, it can also generate unrealistic expectations about how a date should look. Well, to be blunt, most people you meet will not be as attractive as the models and or actors from movies or videos. Well, let's just not be patronising or anything. So it sounds like somebody who is quite switched on about how things work. Another thing I didn't like is when he's saying things like his parents pressured him to date. And I kind of think, well, who would pressure anybody to date, especially when they have the problems they have? Pressure is a stick you beat somebody with, of shame to tell them to do more with their life. Well, under what conditions should you be living? And this Asperger thing could be rather overdone. I think it has been with me. I mean, I knew my parents to my early 30s, and I maybe tried to be a lot more independent. And my symptoms don't seem as severe. But suppose I've been pigeonholed a lot earlier in life, and people have said, no, you can only do this and you can only do that, or even worse manipulation, worse insidious abuse, where instead of having to have something to show for myself more, people sort of mollycoddled you and cosseted you and controlled you and said no, also made routines for you and maybe covered for you if you were a bad person in some way. And maybe certain things. The last video that there is bad quality, where somebody's got a crotch rocket. His father is trying to change sexual offence laws for some reason. His best friend supposedly was gay, and he goes on about how homosexuality used to be regarded as wrong, and how that affected, as a sideline to all these things that are going on, he thought he might be gay himself. And his cousin is gay. So you've got a few gay people involved, haven't you? And we've got to be a bit careful what we say nowadays, but some people would say that that's not a very, very far removed from the sorts of environments, social environments where abuse tends to occur. Anything else I could add? I don't know. That may be just about it. This very successful person earning money, and then it all crashes, and daddy's still in the picture and pulling all the strings, and he has to rely on his daddy even after that, and it just sounds very wrong to me, like as if it was meant to happen. He was steered into that abyss. And well, people who are not very narcissistic and malignantly narcissistic, whether he or his father, perhaps overestimate themselves, and then they carry on. They like to make somebody else go through hell, and then whether they deserve it or not, and always be there in the picture, exerting some sort of control over them. Nice stuff. Probably people in the FBI understand this better than me, but yeah, if they're watching,